On the day I returned home, the fake heiress knelt before me, crying with pear blossom-like tears, saying she felt guilty for having enjoyed the life that should have been mine. My parents and younger brother all gathered around to comfort her, leaving me aside like an outsider. I watched them speechlessly. If you haven't sorted out your emotions, could you not have called me back? I have no interest in watching you perform your picture-perfect family. After saying that, I turned and left immediately. What a drag, wasting my precious study time. The quickest to react was the fake heiress Aria, who grabbed my hand with reddened eyes to stop me from leaving, though her words carried a hint of boasting about how much more the family cared for her. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad and little brother were just worried about me. Anna, don't blame them. It's all my fault, I couldn't control my emotions and didn't know how to treat you. Having gone from the real heiress to a fake one, even though our parents said life would remain the same and we were still one family, Aria couldn't possibly feel no sense of loss. Subconsciously, she wanted to put me in my place. The more improper she acted, the more distant her relationship with the family became, the more at ease she felt inside. I watched her with cold eyes, speaking bluntly without holding back. You've been living a good life all along, and even if I return, your life remains unchanged. I won't do anything to you, so what are you crying about? If you truly feel so guilty, shouldn't you have left long ago to stand on your own? Crying in front of me as if you've been wronged, what do you mean by this? Are you hoping that I, along with the others, will rush to comfort you and beg you to stay? I didn't, I'm not. Aria hadn't expected me to speak so bluntly. Her face turned pale, and she was at a loss for words to refute me. John, who was standing nearby, is only 14 this year, right at that rebellious age. Seeing the sister who had taken care of him since childhood looking pitiful and vulnerable, he couldn't help but argue back. Do you have to be so aggressive? Aria is innocent too, the mix-up wasn't her fault, you. I cut him off directly, so what exactly do you mean? I just got back, one of you is crying, the rest are comforting her. Are you saying you don't welcome me and want me to take the hint and leave, so you can keep pretending to be your perfect happy family of 4? I glanced at the group whose expressions had turned various shades of uncomfortable at my words, my brow furrowing. Aria and I had been accidentally switched by a nurse at the hospital. My adoptive parents were poor but treated me well. After they died in a mudslide, my uncle took me in but treated me like a servant and wouldn't let me study. It was Principal Margaret who saved me and arranged for me to attend the girls' school. I came back not only to reunite with my family but also because I believe their financial situation can provide me with better educational resources. I was forced by my uncle to drop out of school during middle school, and later I skipped directly to high school. No matter how hard I try, I still can't catch up with the curriculum. I'm now in my second year of high school, and based on my current level, I probably won't even get into an undergraduate program. So I need better teaching to help me get into a good university, become a capable person, and in the future, assist Principal Margaret in building the girls' school. I have experienced the warmth of family affection, as well as the darkness of the world. Although I have some expectations for familial bonds, I don't necessarily have to come back and acknowledge them. I need to focus on studying and preparing for the college entrance exams. I don't have time to play games with them. I'm sorry, Anna. We didn't do well enough. I'm sorry, woo-woo. My birth mother could no longer hold back and rushed forward, hugging me tightly as she broke into sobs. It was Mom's fault for not protecting you. I'm sorry. They had never known Aria was a fake daughter before, so they had poured all their love into her. As a mother, she had especially cherished Aria like the apple of her eye. Even after discovering she wasn't her biological daughter, she couldn't bear to let her go. Seeing Aria cry just now had triggered her habitual instinct to comfort her. But after hearing my words, she realized how she'd wronged her newly returned daughter, filling her with guilt and self-reproach. How could she have neglected her own daughter who had suffered so much outside? She felt like such a failure as a mother. The thought brought waves of grief, making her cry even more heartbreakingly. I didn't resist her approach, comforting her by patting her back. I'm a straightforward person, treat me well, and I'll treat you well in return. provoke me, and I'll make sure you regret it. Anna, we're truly sorry for not handling this properly. This won't happen again, we're family now. You can do whatever you want at home without having to suppress yourself. You shouldn't have to hold yourself back. The family patriarch, my biological father, also spoke up, giving my shoulder a gentle pat. Then he shot Arya and John a meaningful look, nodding in satisfaction when they wisely kept their mouths shut. They just needed time to adjust, but they weren't fools. Given their long-standing relationship, they would continue treating Arya as they always had, but their affection for her could never, and should never, surpass what they showed me, their trueborn daughter. To make up for their initial neglect of me, they took me to my room together after entering the house. The room was spacious, and the decor showed careful thought. Most importantly, on the desk were various textbooks and books I had once longed for but couldn't afford. Just as I was about to take out my test papers to do some practice, I heard Arya ask with a smile, "Do you like it, Anna? Mom and I decorated it together for you. We picked everything out together." At first glance, Arya's words sounded harmless, but just like before, they subtly tried to show off her status in this family. Seeing that I didn't respond, Arya sweetly suggested, "Or we could go tour the other rooms? You can pick whichever one you like and stay there." "Fine, then I'll take your room," I replied directly, catching her off guard. Not only Arya, but also my biological parents and even John, who had been scrolling on his phone nearby, were stunned. But my room." Arya's heart tightened. She had only wanted to appear warm-hearted by casually offering, planning to contrast the real daughter's lack of manners. Never did she expect the other party would actually demand her room. Her face stiffened instantly, at a loss for how to respond. John, standing nearby, quickly stepped in to defend Arya. "There are so many rooms, why must you take Arya's? Can't you stay in any other one?" I glanced coolly at this hot-tempered little brother and amended, "All right, then I'll take your room instead." "No, you can't." John never expected me to turn the gun towards him, instantly flushing red as he protested. No way in hell was he letting anyone stay in his room. Especially with those unmentionable readings he had in there. Absolutely not. Our parents standing nearby didn't know what to say either. On one hand, they wanted to treat their biological daughter well now that she'd returned, but they also feared creating distance in Arya's heart. Making their biological daughter and adopted daughter get along harmoniously, easier said than done. Only when actually trying would they realize how difficult balancing their relationship would be. Especially with their youngest son always siding with the adopted daughter. Arya noticed her adoptive parents' increasingly conflicted expressions. After hesitating for a moment, she took the initiative to step forward and say, "Since Anna likes my room, I'll just let her have it." "Let me?" I directly interrupted Arya's words, looking at her with pointed meaning. "Shouldn't it be about returning what rightfully belongs to its owner? After all, everything you possess was originally mine." Arya's face instantly turned somewhat unpleasant. Seeing her about to put on that pitiful look with her head hanging low again, I added, "You were the one who said I could choose whichever room I wanted. But the moment I pick yours, you start hemming and hawing. If you can't deliver on your promises, then don't make them, stop pretending to be generous and considerate." How hypocritical. After speaking, I couldn't be bothered with their reactions and went straight into the initial room, closing the door to focus on my studies. I know they might think I'm hot-tempered, but so what? This is just who I am. Since they wanted me back, they should be the ones adjusting to me, not me accommodating them. Especially Arya. While she's innocent in this whole real versus fake heiress situation, she's enjoyed the happiness that should have been mine all these years. She shouldn't expect the family to keep favoring her after my return. No one in this family owes her anything, nor do we need her to repay anything. She'd better adjust her attitude and know her place. Otherwise, heh. During dinner, I was seated between my parents, who kept serving me dishes. John and Arya, probably reminded by their father earlier in the day, ate quietly without saying a word. I was quite satisfied with this peaceful arrangement, It saved me mental energy and allowed me to focus more on studying. But I never expected that on my very first day at the new school, someone would dare to disrupt my studies. Anyone who interferes with my learning, I won't let them off the hook. Anna. Even if you're the true heiress, you can't send people to bully Arya. She's innocent in this too, she's also a victim. A nerdy-looking boy dragged a drenched Arya over to me and started yelling angrily. According to classmates nearby, he was the top student class monitor named Paul or something. Beside him, Arya's red and white school uniform was completely soaked. Through the increasingly transparent white shirt, glimpses of her white undergarments could faintly be seen. Her sweet face was streaked with tears, clearly the look of someone who had been bullied, appearing both wronged and innocent. Seeing my confused expression, the nerdy class monitor only shouted louder. Aren't you just jealous of how much your parents favor Arya? So you got people to bully her and force her to leave your family? Do you really think you're some kind of pampered rich girl? Class president, stop talking, I'm fine. Let's just drop this matter. Arya said to me with a pitiful expression while pulling at that nerdy class president. Anna, no matter how much you dislike me, in my heart we'll always be family. But there are some things you just shouldn't do, you're damaging our family's reputation like this. With that, she led the visibly distressed Paul out, making the whole scene look like I'd bullied her and she was magnanimously letting it go. Ridiculous. Can't she even let people study in peace? Hearing the whispers from nearby classmates, the anger I'd been suppressing all day finally erupted. I strode forward, planted my foot against the doorframe to block their exit, and said with razor-sharp intensity like a gang leader. I'm the true child of the Sinclair family by blood. What would I need to snatch from an adopted daughter? Would I even need to? Whether Arya stays or leaves the Sinclair family makes no difference to me. Bullying her would just be a waste of my time. Then she turned to Arya and snapped angrily, if someone bullied you, you should have reported it to teachers instead of framing me. I just arrived at this school today, I don't know anyone here. Who exactly could I have gotten to bully you? Come with me to the dean's office. Let's summon those bullies and confront them together. We'll see whether they're targeting you, me, or the entire Sinclair family. Without giving them a chance to argue, she seized Arya with her left hand and grabbed Paul with her right, dragging them both along forcefully. Both of them were spoiled rich kids who'd never done manual labor. How could their strength compare to someone like me who'd done rough work for over a decade? Not only could they not break free, but they were dragged all the way to the faculty office like prisoners on parade. The teacher was so startled they thought I was bullying them rather than helping catch the actual bullies. The teacher quickly rounded up the students who'd bullied Arya, 2 boys and 2 girls, the school's notorious troublemakers. They were all either disfavored heir backups or illegitimate children with no status. Used to getting away with petty mischief, they'd seized the opportunity after learning Arya wasn't the real heiress, trapping her in a bathroom stall and dousing her with water for fun. They figured they could later pin it on the real versus fake heiress drama and walk away unscathed. But they didn't expect me, the real heiress raised in the mountains, to be so tough. I held them accountable with solid reasoning until they were forced to accept punishment, so they wisely lowered their heads and apologized to me and Arya. After all, I have the backing of the Sinclair family. If this escalated, it wouldn't just be a conflict between students, it could instantly turn into a clash of corporate interests. Their standing at home wasn't high to begin with. If they genuinely offended the Sinclair family, their future would be difficult. So when the teacher mentioned holding a public reflection meeting, they didn't put up much resistance. Arya, being beautiful and kind-hearted, forgave them, but I wasn't nearly as easy to deal with. Teacher, Arya, and Paul need to reflect and apologize to me publicly as well. As soon as the words were spoken, Paul, who had been standing by like a transparent bystander, immediately erupted in furious shouts. Why should Arya and I apologize? Don't push it too far. Arya's expression also darkened, but she didn't argue, just silently retreated behind Paul. It seemed both like seeking his protection and pushing him forward to wage the battle. Arya and Paul accused me of bullying outright without even understanding the full truth. I was lucky enough to clear my name this time, but what if I couldn't? Wouldn't I be branded as a bully for nothing? Besides, they came straight to the classroom to slander me. If they don't make a public apology, how can I defend myself when other classmates who don't know the truth misunderstand me as a bully? They must apologize publicly. And publicly clear my name. Arya and Paul didn't speak, but their expressions clearly showed disagreement. The teacher tried to mediate, but I couldn't be bothered and went straight back to the classroom to continue studying. My time is precious, they're not worth it. When I got home from school, my parents and John all looked somewhat conflicted, probably aware of how I demanded Arya apologize after being falsely accused. They likely wanted me to let it go but were also worried I'd feel resentful, leaving them unsure how to handle the situation. Surprisingly, it was Arya who brought it up during dinner. "Anna, I'm sorry about what happened today. I was just scared in the moment and misunderstood you. I'll make a public self-criticism to apologize to you." While speaking, she tearfully suggested moving out again. Maybe I should just move out after all. It seems better for everyone. Her pitiful little appearance made the three people beside her instinctively start comforting her again, while I just found it irritating. "Will you ever stop? At school, I didn't see you apologize when you were supposed to. Now you bring it up again at home. What were you doing all day? If you did something wrong, don't put on this innocent face. It's really annoying. And just how terrible of a person do you think I am? Why is it that the first person you suspect when someone bullies you is me? What exactly have I done to make you think I'd want to mess with you?" After finishing my words, I quickly wolfed down the rest of my meal, then couldn't be bothered with them and went straight to my room to pack. My belongings were few, a backpack and a shoulder bag held everything. When I came downstairs, Arya was crying even harder. Although my parents and younger brother weren't doting on her as excessively as before, they were still fussing over her. I hadn't expected much from them to begin with, but seeing them ignore me like this still put me in a foul mood. But I have a mouth, and I won't hesitate to speak my mind. I'm moving into the school dorm. My time is precious, and I don't want you affecting my studies. Don't bother me unless it's important. My voice was firm, laced with heavy sarcasm, finally drawing their attention. "What on earth are you talking about, Anna?" Mother was the first to react, trying to snatch the luggage from my hands, but how could they possibly stop someone who truly intended to leave? With a few quick moves, I hopped into a taxi and left without looking back. Now that's how you make an exit. If Arya had just left directly, I might have respected her more. But all that whining and crying? Clearly just fishing for someone to coax and comfort her. I can't stand people like that. Distance equals peace. Having money sure is great. Even when students choose to go home, elite schools like this still provide dorm rooms so they can rest anytime. Thanks to the Sinclair family, I got to enjoy a single room too. Though not as luxurious as the Sinclair family mansion, it's a huge step up from the cramped dozen-person dorms at the girls' school. My parents called me countless times, but I wasn't in the mood to answer. I just sent a text back instead. I didn't mean to force them to choose between me and Arya, but with my heavy academic workload right now, I genuinely don't have the energy to play happy family or compete with Arya for parental affection. What they think is their business. If they truly love me as their daughter, they'll naturally adjust their emotions and understand my willfulness. If they consider me unworthy as their daughter, then there's no need for further entanglement. I'll settle accounts with them myself, take some living expenses, and leave when it's time. Fortunately, my biological parents are reasonable people. Seeing how resolute I was, they didn't disturb me excessively and even arranged several private tutors for me. Father hired tutors for all three children equally, but the tutor originally arranged for me was only mediocre. Because of my poor foundation, Father thought it would be enough if I could keep up and get into an ordinary university. But I told him very bluntly, though it might seem overambitious to outsiders, that I didn't want to set limits for myself. I was determined to aim for the top universities and fight for it. Mountain kids like me relied on rote learning, cramming knowledge into our heads without truly understanding it. Because of our poor comprehension, we often couldn't apply what we learned and had to mechanically follow patterns, which is why our grades were bad. I know I'm not smart, but the Sinclair family can provide me with high-quality educational resources, letting clever people guide me down a clever path. Wealthy families may not lack tutors, but truly excellent tutoring resources are still limited, and so is their availability. Even with immense wealth, finding several high-quality tutors for one's children requires not just money, but often connections and even resource exchanges. That's why my father had mentioned arranging a more advanced tutor for me later, but I didn't expect my leaving home would make him willing to invest heavily again to secure several specialized tutors just for me. How much effort and resources he expended to recruit these teachers isn't something I need to consider. Whether he did it out of guilt or because he genuinely believes I'm worth the investment, I can't be bothered to ponder. In any case, since they're offering, I'll accept. I'd be a fool to turn down good education, wouldn't I? My moving out directly was a real slap in the face to Arya. The very next day, she dragged Paul along to apologize to me publicly, with genuine sincerity, no playing the pitiful victim act. It felt so much better to watch. But Arya's apology stirred up quite a bit of discussion. Some people even started imagining some battle of the real and fake heiresses drama. What does our family matter have to do with any of you? Instead of wasting time on this, why not focus on studying? Does my conflict with Arya get you extra points on your exams? While I don't like Arya, I also despise those who make a hobby out of gossiping about other people's private matters. They just love stirring up trouble, shoving their opinions in your face, then acting like, you don't mind, right? We're just chatting. So annoying. After moving into the dorm, aside from going back on weekends to have meals and chat with them, I spent most of my time studying seriously in the dorm. They probed a few times, but seeing that I truly had no intention of changing my mind, they stopped insisting. Arya also no longer showed her previous enthusiasm. Occasionally, when we ran into each other at school, we'd exchange greetings, cold and distant. But I was quite satisfied with this way of getting along, as I genuinely felt nothing for her and had no desire to force myself to cater to her so-called warmth. Ironically, it was John, this so-called younger brother, who kept coming to me every now and then. At first, he was standing up for Arya, always glaring at me with resentment and demanding why I didn't like her. After getting fed up with his pestering, I snapped back without hesitation, I don't even like you, so why should I like her? Hearing me say that, he actually got upset. Why don't you like me? I'm your brother. You don't treat me like a sister either. What have you done to deserve my liking? From that day on, for some reason he lost his mind and started caring about me in all sorts of ways, expressing what he called sibling love. Though it seemed pretty silly, I didn't really mind. After all, whether we're family or not, there's no need to go off like a bomb and ruin our relationship. I was so immersed in my studies that I truly turned a deaf ear to everything else. My mind was filled with nothing but learning, and more learning. Every day, I counted down to the college entrance exams, wondering how many days were left and which knowledge points I hadn't covered yet. My parents even started to suspect I'd gone mad with studying, but only I knew, I was paving the way for my future. This was my future, my life. Finally, the college entrance exams ended without any major mishaps, and I completely relaxed. But then, to my surprise, I heard the news that Arya had given up on the exams because she was pregnant. Ever since I left home, my parents' attitude toward Arya had gradually shifted. Though they still doted on her, the scale slowly tipped in my favor. But this is only natural, after all, if they couldn't even love their own biological daughter like me, why would they continue loving Arya, their adopted daughter? Yet Arya became obsessed. Despite already enjoying so much, she wanted even more. Day after day, she schemed about how to make the family dote on her more and pay her more attention. But she didn't trust their love for her, always fearing that one day they would take back everything they'd given her. And it was at this vulnerable moment that Paul swooped in. Under the guise of caring for her, he bewitched and enticed her. In the end, because he promised to marry her and take her home as his wife, she let him sweet-talk her into bed, even getting her pregnant. She gave up the college entrance exam because during the first subject, she felt unwell in her stomach. Being sensitive, she worried it might affect the baby and cause a miscarriage. In a moment of panic, she abandoned the exam and went to the hospital to rest and protect the pregnancy. Her parents only found out about this huge secret when the teacher called them. When I got home, my parents were in the middle of a heated argument with her. Even John, who had always been caring toward her, was yelling at her furiously. "Are you out of your mind? For that man, you've turned yourself into such a mess. What were you thinking? What are you doing? I love him, I want to marry him and build a family with him. What's wrong with that?" Arya had lost her usual gentleness and grace, screaming hysterically like a bristling kitten, her demeanor disturbingly manic. "Arya, stop this nonsense. Paul is no good man. If you want to fall in love and marry, you can do anything after going to college. Why must you choose now? How old are you even?" Her father looked at his adopted daughter with heartache. He'd long since sounded out the situation. Paul had some affection for Arya but not much, never even mentioning her pregnancy to his own parents. One didn't need to guess, even if they actually ended up together, Arya would have a hard time in Paul's family. What respectable family would think highly of a pregnant teenager who'd even failed her college entrance exams? "Arya, listen to your mother. Break up with him, then retake the college entrance exams and get into a good university. As for the baby, let's discuss it later, okay? Even if you decide to keep it, we're willing to support you. But that man Paul is absolutely unacceptable." Her mother kept pleading earnestly by her side, but Arya refused to listen. She was stubbornly against continuing her education, obsessed with marrying Paul and bearing his child. "You don't want me, but Paul does. He's willing to marry me, to take care of me, to give me a worry-free life. Why are you trying to stop me? What's wrong with me marrying him and being a good-for-nothing? This isn't my home. You're not my family. I just want to have my own home." Seeing Arya in such a hysterical state and hearing her utter such self-destructive words, I could no longer suppress the fury in my heart. I grabbed a pillow from the couch and chased after her, giving her a thorough beating. "Can't you survive without relying on others? You need to take control of your own life. Why do you always think about depending on your parents? Depending on others? Do you know how many girls in remote mountain villages want to study but can't, forced into early marriages? You have no worries about food or clothing, with such excellent conditions, yet you'd give up the college entrance exam for so-called security? You don't even trust the family who's been with you for so many years, yet you believe a man who can't control his lower half will love, protect, and stay with you for life? Who in this family has abandoned you? Even though I dislike you so much, I never thought of driving you away. What are you wallowing in self-pity for?" Unlike our parents' scolding mixed with coaxing earlier, I genuinely hit and cursed her, with our parents unable to stop me. Arya, who had been pampered and spoiled since childhood, had never been subjected to such beating and scolding before, and soon broke into miserable, helpless sobs. I don't know if she cried because I hit her or out of regret. But eventually, I grew tired of hitting her and didn't want to bother with her anymore. Some things were just her stubbornly clinging to wrong ideas. No matter how much reason we tried to instill in her, it was all pointless if she refused to understand. The stress that had built up since I started school finally released the moment the college entrance exams ended. For once, I could sleep in peacefully, waking up only the next afternoon. When I came to, John was the only one left at home. For once, he wasn't playing games but actually studying properly. Although his studying in the living room act seemed rather deliberate, since he was genuinely hitting the books, I couldn't be bothered to call him out on it. "Sis, Mom and Dad didn't wake you since you were sleeping so soundly. They went with Arya, took her to the hospital to, take care of the baby. Did she go willingly? Or was she forced?" John had been tiptoeing around the subject with me, but my question caught him off guard. After a brief pause, he answered, "She went on her own. I think she came to terms with it." John still wanted to say something, so I directly spread the workbook open in front of him. "Stop spouting nonsense. Hurry up and study. Do you even know how few days are left until the college entrance exam? Oh? Right away, right away. By the way, sis, I'll study hard. But if I don't do well later, you can't hit me like you did Arya. I may look strong, but my bones are super fragile. Seeing John's pretend pitiful but actually cheeky expression, I flashed him a bright smile and calmly replied. I won't hit you, I'll just kill you outright. Huh? During Arya's hospitalization, she refused all company and visits, and later even went traveling directly. She said she was very confused right now and wanted to go everywhere to clear her mind. When summer vacation ends, she will return to repeat her studies and continue with the college entrance exams. Given the current situation, all we can do is let her be. After all, it takes the one who tied the bell to untie it. If she still can't figure things out, then no matter what we do, she will repeat the same mistakes. During the summer vacation, I finally relaxed and got along well with my parents. In fact, now is the most suitable time for us to communicate and bond, so I was finally able to sincerely call them mom and dad, and also my younger brother. That day, they cried so messily, but to me, they looked adorable and endearing. They said I cried too, but I don't remember. My college entrance exam scores turned out even better than I had imagined, good enough to get into a prestigious university. Though the major was somewhat niche, it was nothing short of a miraculous blessing. As long as I kept up my studies, grad school at my dream university was within reach. The first thing I did after receiving the acceptance letter was return to the mountains. I declined my family's company because that time belonged solely to Principal Margaret and me. The girls' school in the mountains, due to limited resources, could only rely on what others deemed the most foolish cramming method of learning. But I hoped that once I stepped beyond those bounds, when I return, I can help them adopt better teaching methods and access better educational resources, enabling more girls from the mountains to break free. Similarly, I also hope to become their solid backing. Society is harshly realistic. Even if many girls manage to get into good universities and secure decent jobs, the lack of connections and prevailing stereotypes force them to expend tremendous effort and energy just to establish a foothold in society. Often, the desire to return and contribute to building girls' schools remains an unfulfilled wish due to insufficient strength, sometimes even leading to being suppressed by others. Fortunately, my biological parents now provide me with a privileged environment, allowing me to focus my efforts in the right direction. Given this, I must strive to excel so I can bring more light to these girls. What I didn't expect, however, was that Arya was also at the girls' school. Arya's trip to the mountains was a spur-of-the-moment decision. She simply wanted to see the environment where I used to live. But her so-called relatives, the uncle, assuming she had been abandoned by the Sinclair family, tried to coax and deceive her into an arranged marriage. Fortunately, Principal Margaret arrived just then to bring back a female student who had been forced to drop out by her family, and she helped Arya out in the process. Arya hadn't found a suitable place to stay yet, so she followed Principal Margaret back to the girls' school. To be honest, at first I just wanted to see how difficult their lives were out of a petty mindset. I wanted to regain my pitiful sense of superiority from them, but later I realized they were living much more exciting lives than I was. I'm not a particularly kind person. I'm narrow-minded, petty, selfish, and cowardly. But I'm lucky that, under my family's protection, I've had the chance to travel and see different worlds and meet different people. There are actually still many things I can't figure out or reconcile. But there's one thing I've already come to understand: only what belongs to you is truly eternal. I'm not that noble. I can't selflessly dedicate myself to teaching in the mountains like you all. But I'll strive to become successful, so when I want to help them in some way, I'll have the power to do so. That day, Arya and I actually sat down for a rare chat. Though it was mostly her talking while I listened. Much of what she said wasn't really to my liking, but at least it was human speech, and she seemed much more pleasant to look at now. Principal Margaret was very busy. She didn't have much time to talk with me. But her embrace was so warm enough that I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. In the end, Arya and I left the mountains together, returning to the home that belonged to us. On the first day of university, I actually smiled and said something nice to Arya for once. My school is pretty good too. You could consider becoming my junior next year. Little did I expect this jerk to completely ruin the moment. Sorry, but I'm aiming for Tsinghua. At that point, it'll be you who needs to work hard for grad school admission there. Humph. We really don't get along at all. But what can I do? We're family after all. Family relationships are complicated, especially when you throw in dramatic twists like real and fake heiresses. Fortunately, I have a voice, my family has brains, and Arya has integrity. So perhaps our relationship wasn't harmonious at first, but it was gradually changing as we both reflected. We found our own way of getting along and embarked on our own path. Side story. Arya. Ever since learning she was the mistakenly raised fake heiress, Arya felt she had lost her home. She viewed everyone around her with utmost malice, unable to resist playing petty tricks to assert her existence. She simplistically believed that without blood ties, her parents would inevitably drift away from her. So she was bewitched by Paul, got pregnant, wanting to have a child to create her own exclusive family. She was consciously degrading herself, escapingly letting her life descend into chaos. That day, Anna's scolding and beating didn't so much wake her up as make her realize that even in her most wretched state, her family still cared about her. Back then, she actually harbored many dark and resentful thoughts in her heart. Had even one person given up on her then, she would likely have morbidly given up on herself too. Her motivation for going to the mountains wasn't entirely pure. She used to attribute all love to blood ties, and now she wanted to see the mountains for herself. She wanted to see what life was like for those girls bound by blood ties to an abyss where they could see their whole wretched lives stretched out before them. With petty malice, she sought to comfort herself by witnessing others' misery. The reality of these girls' lives was far more miserable than she had imagined. She couldn't fathom how Anna had endured such days, nor dare to imagine how utterly broken she herself would be living in such circumstances. She suddenly found it bitterly ironic that the once outstanding version of herself had become such a mess, all because she obsessed over so-called blood ties and love. Clearly, her path could have been more brilliant. Clearly, she too could have become like Principal Margaret, a light for these girls, illuminating both their lives and her own. But fortunately, it's not too late now.